I've worked with a lot of videographers who are very timid, and they come into the room thinking like the photo people are the leaders, and I will just see if I can get in there and maybe get a shot because I don't want to get in their way because it's their priority. Right. While that might be tradition, like we also as photographers, like we want to see that you have confidence and that you know what you want to get.
Hey guys, Stanton Giles here, and today I'm talking with Michaela Potterbaum of Promise Mountain. She's going to get into what exactly Promise Mountain is in this episode, but I'm really excited for you guys to listen to this one because this one is all about working with photographers. Admittedly, this is something that we look over a lot when we're trying to learn things as videographers. A lot of times we are really obsessed with what to learn about as far as gear or how to better talk to clients or pricing or things like that, but we oftentimes forget that a photographer is just as big a part of a wedding day as a bride is for us. We work with them at every single wedding 100% of the time. So with that said, we really need to learn how to work with photographers well. Michaela is extremely talented at what she does. She's traveled the whole world shooting weddings, and I'm really excited for you guys to learn from her today. So with that said, let's dive in. Michaela, thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon to jump on here and talk to me. I'm always really excited to be able to talk to you about, anything in general, just be about life, but talking about weddings, I feel like me and you are kind of like-minded on a lot of things. And so it's always super, super fun to have you on. And I'm just, thanks for making the time.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? This is like celebrity mode right here. I'm with you. So this is cool. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Working with photographers as videographers is something that's almost inherent as working with bride and grooms. And so I feel like it's something that there's a lot of, different things talked about in different groups about maybe like frustration and pain points and things like that. But we never really, I feel like, bring on photographers that are proficient in their field and that have worked with lots of videographers and like hear their side of things and hear like how we can better work with them to make beautiful images and beautiful videos for our brides and grooms. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. I mean, sure, we have portfolio pieces, all these different things, but at the end of the day, it's about delivering a beautiful wedding film and beautiful pictures to the bride and groom, and that both of them are equally as important. Right. So I am talking too much. I want them to hear from you, Michaela. If you'll start off, just like tell us who you are, just any information you want to tell us about like your business, what you do inside of it with Promise Mountain, not to steal your thunder, but your Promise Mountain. But, but let us know anything you want to let the people know in this community about you.
Sure. Totally. Well, first of all, thanks for bringing an outsider photographer into the group here. I feel pretty special to be here right now. So my name is Michaela, and I run and own a company called Promise Mountain, and it is primarily a micro wedding and elopement company. And we basically we're like a one-stop shop, so you can come to us and get married in some of what we think are the most epic spots in the world. And now that's what we do. We were pretty set up pre-COVID, and now it turns out a lot of people want to have these tiny little weddings. And that's what we do. So it's been really cool to see that progression happen. We were kind of in position for that, and it's just been wild. But prior to starting Promise Mountain, I've been doing this for about 4 years, elopements and micro weddings. But before that, I photographed all around the world as a solo wedding photographer. So I literally you asked me ahead of time, like, where all of you photographed? I'm like, I don't know. I've been to 40 countries.
Name like top 5. Let's hear top 5 places.
Well, I would have to say Norway's number 1. That's definitely where I lived and photographed the most outside of the US. So definitely Norway. The UK is awesome. Did a wedding in Congo once. I photographed in Guatemala, a wedding there. I did all over the US, definitely Canada a few different times. And there's some wild stories mixed in there, as I'm sure you have as well. So that's kind of a little taste of I did one, Africa, all over, a lot in Europe, all over. So definitely dipped around the world doing that for a few years, and eventually just got to a point where I was like, like a lot of people, I want to do smaller weddings, I want to do elopements. I want to do more destination, kind of adventure themed weddings. So that's kind of where we're at now. And we do kind of everything. We're sort of a one-stop shop, so people can come to us, and we basically are like hooking them up with lodging and hair and makeup and all the key vendors. We call them the wedding essentials that they would need. Photography is always built in because we build everything around photo, but a lot of people want video, and we're not necessarily videographers. We're trying to build that out more, but we're not quite there. So it's cool we have this. That's kind of how we have a connection, is because we've pulled you in quite a few times to shoot with us.
Yeah, no, and it's always, and Michaela has always pulled me in, and some pretty awesome places around the world. So you named a couple of places you've gone, just doing adventure photography and different things like that. Where are like the locations that Promise Mountain is doing stuff right now? And I know you're always got something you're cooking too. So like, where are some places that you're planning on going as well?
Yeah, for sure. So again, flagship location is definitely Norway, and we started there just shortly after I moved back to the U.S. from Norway, 2016. And so we have several locations around Norway, usually the Western Fjord region. And then we've now branched, doing a ton here in the U.S. We branched out to Glacier National Park, just launched the Oregon coast. We're just about to launch Arizona and Sedona and Horseshoe Bend area. One of my favorites that's not quite on the docket yet, but we're headed there, is we are going to do a luxury treehouse and cave elopement package that we're about to launch in Alabama, of all places. So awesome. We're just looking for unique opportunities, and we like to go where we feel the wonder, like where it feels like super fun to be, somewhere that's just like an epic location that maybe someone wants to get married there. So it's kind of where we're at. Totally.
No, that's awesome. And like, if there's anything, guys, that Michaela is, she's a dreamer, but she's also a doer. There's a lot of people that dream, but there's less people that do. And you're definitely somebody that does that. And I kind of want to go back to the Promise Mountain thing for a little bit, because I've also had a look myself into Promise Mountain, and just like to quantify it down for you guys, like Michaela, she's like this one-stop shop for everything, but she's also like the main photographer there on the wedding day, and she's really good at what she does. Like the images she comes up with are astounding. And it's just really cool to kind of like hear about her story and everything that she's done over the years. I actually, the last time we were in Norway together, was able to make her a little like about video, which is just kind of cool to like get some insight into what they do. If you go to their website, it's on your website, I think still, hopefully.
It's on the Norway page.
Okay. Yeah. But like, go to there and you can watch that about video, and just kind of, it just describes who they are and what they do. And you really see it's not just this money making machine that she's like, just trying to like make money all over the world, which I'm sure it is regardless, but like, you're doing it because you love it, and you're going where, like you said, where the wonder is. I don't know if that's how you said verbatim. Yes. And that's something that I am drawn to myself, because I'm very drawn to the adventurous outdoor stuff as well. And as time goes on, I find myself being drawn more to doing the elopements and doing those kind of things. And I'll always love Mexico and the destination weddings and 150 people partying and the upbeat wedding films, but there's something about the cinematic nature of things. Anyway, totally. So we got an idea of who you are, what you do, and everything. I could keep talking about Promise Mountain probably for the next hour. Where, like, I guess how I want to say it. So you've been a photographer longer than you've been doing this business. Like, what as a photographer, as you've evolved over who you are now, what's your favorite thing about being a photographer in relation to doing elopements and like destination wedding, micro weddings, and like beautiful places?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I didn't go to school for wedding photography. I really did a very informal route of school in general. But I used to be a drummer. I toured as a drummer for a few years, and I loved it. I love music. But I kind of got to the point where I was like, I want to try something visual. Let's try design. Let's try photo. Landed with photo. Went to school in Amsterdam for documentary photography. So the thing that I first fell in love with was storytelling. And it's just always been a big part of like just the way I'm wired. So when I have a camera, like we'll take the pose shots and set images up and stuff. But like at the end of the day, like I want to tell someone's story and I want it to be authentic, but I'm also okay to move them in the best direction for the light. I'm okay to do, and I know you do that as well to a degree. But it's just like, how can we tell the story? And it's always been that for me. So I still love that. And that's what I love to train our team to do too, because now I can't shoot everything. We have different photographers coming on board. But yeah, I think it's just that opportunity to just like be like so up close and personal on that really like honestly really intimate day that just is like it's like nothing else you'll experience in your life. Like it's also a vulnerable day. Like there's a lot of elements to a wedding that we just maybe write off as like whatever, it just goes with a wedding day, like whatever. But for me, having been a part of like, I don't know, a lot of weddings by now, I'm just like every time I'm just always like amazed at like the beauty, the wonder, and honestly like just the vulnerability and connection that can happen in that day. So whether it's an elopement or a regular wedding or classic wedding as I call them, I just think getting to be there like deep in the crevices of those details and around the corner in the quiet and kind of hidden moments, and getting to honestly you end up getting to just be part of like the team that gets to bring peace and like just a lot of stability to what could be kind of a crazy day, depending on how it goes down.
Inviting them into that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And just making them laugh. And I don't know, like I like to find the balance of like doing the job well, but also just getting to be like a good human in the room, hopefully. That just makes it a better experience, right?
Yeah. And you definitely do a good job of that. I think I was just sitting there thinking I've filmed 5 weddings with you and like one styled shoot, and like you definitely do a really good job of bringing joy and stability and like a clear direction. First, Norway wedding we did, it was pouring rain, but you came up with like a really good solution to it, and you kept the couple in the loop. You let them know the reality of the situation, but you also were positive about it and stuff. I really like you hit on storytelling, and this wasn't something I was planning on talking about, but the episode before this, I talked with Josh Helton of A Little Long Distance about storytelling for video. And it's a different world with photos. And so just like real quick before we move on, can you kind of like elaborate a little bit on like what storytelling looks like amidst photography as opposed to like videography? Because videography, we're making like little movies. And so it's like inherent sometimes that we're trying to make these stories, but how do you tell a story with pictures?
Totally. I mean, I think in a lot of ways it's similar. It's just the frozen frame of what you guys are doing. So we're trying to find the wide shots. We're trying to find like the sweeping location shots. We're trying to find the portraits. We're trying to like mix and match all these different elements of like imagery and composition that kind of like all like fits together in that storyline. I don't think obviously it is very different in one way, but I think the concept is still the same. We're just trying to find those moments and piece them together in a way that makes sense chronologically. And so again, like if I'm going to shoot a wedding, I'm going to prioritize a story over like posing and all of that any day, because at the end of the day, they're going to remember the story more than the posing. And that's the thing, is like, what was real, what really happened. And people have different schools of thought of like how far they want to go to kind of like create a moment or an image. I feel like I try to land somewhere in the middle with it. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty simple at the core of it. Just like finding the moments, piecing them together, and making sure you have a good variety of just angles and close, wide and portrait and all that. So.
Yeah, no, that was a great explanation of that, because the moment is literally, that's the word that Josh was using, was moments are like so important to be capturing. If like we're filming a regular dance scene and like it's got lights on the dance floor, I'm always scared to move away from that. But if the mom's crying on the side, he's saying he's going to crank up his ISO to 10, 15,000 so you can capture that moment, because it doesn't matter what it looks like. Anyway, that's a whole nother episode. Thanks for speaking into that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I guess kind of moving in, and like I told like the people that are watching this at the very beginning that we're going to be kind of tying this into your involvement with videographers and stuff like that. So, but right before we get into like, talking about your experience working with videographers, good and bad, like what are you doing as a photographer beforehand and let's like, I guess, exclude the planning process as like being the planner. I know those lines can get blurred, but like as the photographer, how are you planning before the day of the wedding to make the best, I guess, experience and end products for your brides and grooms come to fruition?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's hard almost to take out the planning element because, I mean, it is all planning. Like we're planning and prepping the whole thing. And what we do, our company, we're planners, guides, and photographers kind of all in one go. So we really do take a very, very like dialed in approach to scouting and planning out the timing of the day, everything. So, but a lot of that's without the couple, right? So we can do all that. And for us, we work with specific locations. And so we know, okay, well, we've got these locations on the map, as opposed to a lot of other photographers and videographers who are like, hey, pick a spot and we'll show up and shoot it with you. Like we've kind of done another model where we pick the spots, we scout them out, and we kind of go back to those places. So in that way, we're pretty dialed into the location, the timing, and all of that without the couple even being in the picture. And so for us, we can just show up on the day of and actually tell a pretty cool story without having to do a ton of back work because we've already done that with previous couples. At the same time, I think honestly, working with you has been like really inspiring because one thing that I see you doing is connecting really well with a client before the wedding day. And I think I've watched that play out, and not to flip this onto you, but honestly, it is a really cool approach. And we don't do as much like hands-on with the couple ahead of time. Like we'll have some phone calls and we really talk to them probably more on the front end versus like the back end right before the wedding. So we kind of, plant the idea in their head and like, hey, this is the dream, this is the vision. And when we get them on board, they're on board. They kind of know what they're going into. And we have a framework. We know like what we're going after as far as story and the moments like you're talking about. But I wouldn't say I have any like really extensive, like we don't necessarily have like extensive Zoom calls or something to like really get the nitty gritty of like their lives. We like really like to kind of see how it unfolds in the moment. One thing we do go after is we send out pretty thorough questionnaires to our couples. And that's kind of like in line with planning because we need to know what kind of cake they want. We need to know, those kind of details. But we also ask them in that questionnaire, just like, hey, what's the vibe you want? Like, what are you going after? Like most people, if they book with us, they kind of know our vibe. They know we're adventure minded and so on. But yeah, like I think asking just those few specific questions, like what to you is like, what would you want to see on your wedding day? Some people can answer that really well. Other people are like, I don't know, tell me.
Yeah. Right. Isn't that your job?
Like, yeah, they're like, that's why I hired you, Right. And I'm like, cool. Yeah. So it can go either way, but.
Yeah. And that makes sense. Like, I mean, and of the weddings I've shot with you, I feel like, not to beat a dead horse here, but like when you do show up, you do offer a bit of like, even if you haven't talked to them a lot before, you're just like, hi, how are you guys? Like you just immediately just like invite them into this. And it's not just like, it's not like a secret sauce, like saying, hi, how are you? Like to like people, but something about your demeanor is just really, I feel like you don't have to do that front end work with them, because you're just so easy to be around whenever people are around you. And obviously your work speaks for yourself. So still like talking about a little bit of the back end work, before the day of the wedding. Do you like? I know me and you like talk on the day or before the day of a wedding, but let's say you're working with other videographers in the past. Do you speak with them much beforehand, or what's been your involvement with videographers before the day of the wedding?
Honestly, I personally haven't gone after talking to videographers as much as I really probably would want to. And honestly, a lot of that's now that I've worked more with you, I've seen just like the fruit of that. And up to that, up till the point of working with you initially, like I had worked with a ton of videographers and had a lot of different experiences. It's kind of like a broad spectrum, probably just the same with photographers. There's all kinds of different photographers out there and their approaches are so different. But I usually would just show up on a wedding day. And if they had hired a videographer, it was like, right before the ceremony, hey, nice to meet you. You know, just like, I'll try not to get in your way. And they're like, I'll try not to get in your way, you know, and we just like have this little dance the whole time. Totally. But I've seen how it is so great to have that connection beforehand. And to get to work repeatedly with the same team. You get a different dynamic when you can just do that regularly, right? So
totally. And I feel like I never, as a videographer, I never expect a photographer to reach out to me. It's just I've become used to that just being the standard. I'm not, neither offended or anything like that. If they do, that's awesome. But I've made a practice of reaching out to photographers before the day of, and I've never had a photographer ever not appreciate that. Like they do, like you guys do appreciate us reaching out, and it doesn't mean that you don't care. It's just like not really in your like your normal go-to way of doing things is like reaching out to the videographer before. And so videographer dudes watching this, people out there, like it's really good to reach out to photographers beforehand and just like let them know that you're there like to help them, because I'm about to get into and ask you and put you on the spot in front of a group of 100 people is like, it's the worst thing ever is you know, making the photographer frustrated. And then like, you know, it's just like, there needs to be this mutual understanding and respect amongst photographers and videographers where we're working toward the same thing. So like with that, what have been some of your frustrations, Michaela, in the past when working with videographers? I know there's like, as videographers, or I would say we're pretty aware if we've been around for a while of things, because we'll post different things about, you know, like clashing with photographers and videographers, or photographers clashing with us, vice versa, whatever you want to say. But, you know, what are some of the things that a videographer does? Don't hold back. Let us know, like, what are some things that bug us or bug you about us on the wedding day?
Yeah, I'm sure this goes both ways, so I'll try to be nice here.
Just let us hear it.
Yeah, here it is. No, I mean, I think it's just the pretty obvious things of just like you're sharing the space, and you know, I think as photographers we have more weddings than not where, at least in my case, I shoot more weddings than not where there's not videographer there. So you can get into a really easy flow of just like, this is how we do it. And then when a videographer is added, it's like, oh, everything can take like twice as long or longer. And then you suddenly got like a whole other set of gear, and maybe it's two videographers. Like there's just a lot of dynamics that come into it. And, you know, we just make it work because ultimately we want, like you said, we have the same goal. We want the photos and the video to look seamless and amazing, and they're all going to tell the same story. So we're on the same team, you know, like I've just always had that belief, like, okay, if there's a videographer in the room here, like I want their work to look amazing. And honestly, I've seen so many times, like when a videographer is there and they do a good job and they tell a good story and they're great at editing the final product, it's an advantage for me because I get to use that footage later, and it's something that I could have never done with my camera. You know, I'm shooting photos. So there's huge advantages to just making it work. And so that's the perspective I try to see with it. I know a lot of other photographers can get really frustrated. They're like, oh my gosh, there's a video there, this team, you know. But I will say, like, man, everyone's so different in their approach to, well, I've just dealt with a lot of different videographers. And so not everyone is very aware of the space that we're all sharing. And so, like, sometimes you might run into some people who are like, they're just like with them and their gear and all the things, like it's hard to shoot around it. It's hard to get the shot. Like, and there's some moments you can't repeat. Like, that's the thing. If you can't repeat a moment, then we have to really work hard to work together to make space for us both to be in there to get the right shot. When things can be repeated, like especially in portraits and stuff, that's a whole different thing. But for like the ceremony and the things that are only going to happen one time, like that's where like it's really important that we can work together. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that's probably just the hardest part to me is sharing the space.
Right.
But
I feel like a lot of the gripes and complaints that I see like in these videography groups, there'll be people that post a shot of a photographer standing at the front, like taking a picture of the first kiss, and they're like blocking their shot. Well, I don't necessarily blame the photographer for that. I think that obviously like he or she holds like a certain amount of responsibility for not being aware of the videographer, but also both parties could have done better in communicating where they were wanting to be at the end, because obviously the videographer was wanting to be further back. If you as a photographer needed to be closer, there should have been communication prior to that. So like when I go into ceremonies, like whether it's you, Michaela, or somebody else, I'm going in there and I'm saying, hey, like, you know, it's only me like shooting this whole thing. I got one camera in the back. It's a ceremony tripod. Don't worry about standing in front of it. I guess like don't try to stand right in front of it, because it's just a raw film I'm giving them. But like I have that off to the side, but don't worry about it. And then I tell them, hey, I shoot my ceremonies almost completely on like an 85 or a 50. So I'm pretty tight. And so for like elopements, that's real tight because you can get in close. With a wedding, you know, I like to stay pretty tight with it. So I'm not worried about necessarily getting the photographer in the shot. And so I kind of like communicate that. I'll be like, hey, like I'm gonna stay out of your way. Like I'm not worried about you getting in my way. If are you wanting to move down the aisle for the first kiss or something like that, or like move up closer or something. And so you know, that could apply to destination weddings, that could apply to elopements, whatever it might be. But I feel like communication is something that's like really often overlooked, because you can get there and you can go through the niceties at the beginning of like, hey, like, so happy to work with you. Like, just punch me if I get in your way. Like, you know, slap each other on the shoulder. You go on for the day and you don't communicate like what you need to do to succeed. And so I guess my next question would be like, as a photographer, I feel like I might know the answer to this, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it when it comes to like posing in portraits and something that's not like a live thing, like a ceremony or a first look or whatever it might be, when there's actually like a lot of time for portraits. What do you prefer as far as like working with videographers? Do you prefer for the videographer and photographer to work at the same time, to be getting the same exact shots? Do you prefer, are you okay with the videographer leading in the same like space as you are while you're both shooting? Or do you prefer to have it like split up to where you have your time, videographer has their time?
I mean, I think, again, I'm kind of, it's interesting.
I'm getting to ask Michaela all these questions that like I just have been meaning to ask her over the years.
We just never have time because we're in the middle of shooting. So
maybe we should communicate more.
Maybe we should have a call first. Just kidding. We do have calls.
We do.
So I mean, I think that honestly, for as much as I think videographers from the photo community maybe get like, people are like, there's video there. Oh my gosh, like. I see so many advantages to it, and one of them is that if I'm getting in there to do portraits, and if I'm moving really quick, I might be pushing them through a lot of photos, and that might be great. But sometimes, like if I'm totally honest, if I get in the flow, like sometimes I'll get in a flow, and then my brain is like, where do I want to go next? And that's kind of like a good. There's usually a break in there where it's good to be like, hey, if you want so I usually try to offer, hey, if you want any video, like feel free to go for it. And so I like to get in a rhythm of like shooting, and then make space to make sure that the videographer is getting what they want. Because also I realize like you have a really great level of confidence. Like you as a videographer, you know what you want, you go after it. You've already I've rarely seen a videographer have that kind of drive. I've worked with a lot of videographers who are very timid, and they come into the room thinking like the photo people are the leaders, and I will just see if I can get in there and maybe get a shot because I don't want to get in their way because it's their priority. Right. Well, that might be tradition. Like we also, as photographers, like we want to see that you have confidence and that you know what you want to get. So it's okay. You don't have to know the shot you always want, but I think that confidence actually is really helpful. And when you're moving quickly in different scenes, like you need to be able to be assertive and be like, hey, I'm going to step in and get a shot. So that's why I like to create space for it. Shot, stop. What would you like to do? And that usually gives me a chance to reset too. Or maybe the second shooter wants to get in there, get some shots. But I think there's a really good rhythm you can get to if you get to that place. But that requires assertiveness. It requires confidence, and it requires, I think it's really good if you have a connection where you know the videographer enough to have that ability to say, hey, can I get in and get this shot? Like if you and I are shooting together, sometimes I'll be like, hey, can you step back so I can grab that? Can you go wider so I can get that? I'm not afraid to say that because I know that you want me to get a good shot, and vice versa. Totally. You many times have been like, move out of the. No, just kidding.
It's funny you say that because I would say that there is I mean, hopefully that the confidence that you're seeing and the assertiveness that I display, or you've seen other videographers display, that you are drawn to liking on the wedding day, that there's also the element of respect that has to come with that too, because like I'm sure that you've seen the pendulum swing the other way, where I mean, you have these timid videographers, but then you just have like the belligerent, like, oh my gosh, does this guy know anybody else is in this world right now kind of thing? Right. And we have to, as videographers, like, it's good to have confidence. Like, we should be confident in what we're doing, and we got to put it out there even if we aren't that confident. And like, there's been times where I haven't been confident shooting with you, and I'm just like, I got to do my job. And so like, I got to put myself out there and do the thing. And so, that's definitely, I think that's some really good advice for us to hear as videographers, is that like, I think there is this thing of, the photographers have always, they're the staple of the wedding. You guys have been around for a long time, and then all of a sudden these videographers come in with all this gear in the last decade or so, maybe a little bit longer than that, and it just like rocked the boat really hard. But hearing that you guys don't hate us, but like hearing that you want us to be confident and assertive on the wedding day, that's something that you guys are drawn to. And just like some secret sauce here, guys, if you get like a 7-inch monitor or something and you get like a really cool shot or something, photographers and people in the room see that shot, and they like see like, hey, maybe you know what you're doing. Maybe that looks really good. So like get a monitor.
I see now why you have that. I've always been like, wow, that's really...
I only have it so that I can like make you guys respect me. That's the only reason. Not so I can see the end product better.
Totally get it.
I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, honestly, I think that's true. And you're right. It can absolutely swing the other direction with just too much. But like, there's a difference between being confident and being cocky. Because you can tell, I mean, we can tell really quickly. And I'm sure with videographers, the same with photographers, because like, you can just tell character when you walk in the room. And so I don't want to be someone that walks in the room and is going to just like tear the whole atmosphere down in general. But I especially want to make sure that my connection is good with whoever I'm shooting with, even if they have a different style, even if I don't even love what they're doing. It doesn't matter. Like, they matter as a person. And so I want to build connection, and we've got one day. Let's do it. Let's do the best we can together. Right. We've got this.
And that's who the bride and groom chose too, on both sides. Like, they chose them, the photographer, to be there, and they chose the videographer. So we need to be respectful of that. Real quick question. I know that you and I have had not like disagreements on, but we talked a little bit more extensively on like the audio setup and stuff, like during like ceremonies and elopements and stuff like that. There's been times where I'm like, I would really like for them to hold this mic because like the wind's blowing, but like I'm shooting at such a tight angle that I'm not going to see the mic, but you're shooting wider. And so like that's just going to like, that throws off the whole raw nature vibe for you. Do you want to speak into that just a little bit? Not put you on the spot with that, but.
No, it's fine. I think just, naturally, like, and I see this too when shooting with, different videographers, is like, there's different priorities. You guys aren't just thinking about the image anymore. You're thinking about the full soundscape as well. So I get it. You have priorities beyond just like, how does it look? So for me, we're just thinking, how does it look? And then for me right now, I'm in a unique situation with my job because I'm the photographer, but I'm also kind of their wedding planner. And so I'm now, more than I ever have been in the past, way more focused on their experience versus just like, what are they going to walk away with at the end of the day with their photos? Like, I used to be way more focused on like, but do they have amazing photos? And I would push the clients a little bit more just to get that shot that I wanted, and I was like, but this is for them. They paid me to do it, all that. Well, now, yes, they get amazing photos, but a huge part of my priority is like, how is their experience? Like, are they having a really wonderful time? And do they feel like us as photo and video are pushing them at all too hard? Because at the end of the day, like, this is still our wedding. So I try to like ride this line of like watching them and checking in with them and making sure they feel like, hey, we're having the experience what we want. At the same time, when it comes to audio, like, heck yeah, I want good audio. I just like, I think there's probably moments where I'm going to be like, well, if we can try to make it work with a lapel, I'm probably going to choose that and push for that versus like a handheld in this nature, beautiful spot, just because I probably will see that and it might feel in my brain like a little bit like a news interview. But,
Totally.
Yeah.
And like, I'm thinking back specifically to like Kari and Alden's wedding up in Glacier National Park. And originally, like, we had filmed a different wedding out there, and it was like Hurricane Katrina out there, and
it was so windy.
Could not use the audio from that. Had to like have them reread. But you know, we were talking in the car on the way up there about, I was like, hey, I like kind of want to use this mic, but like you were being respectful of the fact that was something I wanted, but I could hear in your voice like is there like, can we maybe like, I don't know, but I was like, it ended up using a lavalier and it was fine, and you could have heard a pin drop across the lake. It was so quiet on that day, but like that was something that you know, I'm drawn to using this certain handheld microphone that goes like straight into it. It's actually this one I'm recording with right now. That it just sounds so good, but at the sacrifice of, you know, having them hold a microphone and like try to flip the page of their vow book, like, you know, that and messing up your shots, it's just pushing them a little bit too much. And I've been known to push people, so, but like, I'm glad I didn't in that scenario, because it just looked very authentic and was authentic, you know, because they didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. It was just them there. So
absolutely. I'm glad that we could do it. But that's the thing, is that you heard me. You asked me ahead of time and you heard me out. And I really, like, I also want you to get what you want too. So there is a compromise that comes with that. And in that case, you're able to make it work with a lapel. But, you know, it's just like working together is so important. And I think that's where it's like, sometimes you won't agree. Like, there's going to be just differences. But like trying to like, man, be professional about it and move on if something isn't like your dream scenario, you know?
Totally. So if I like look back on this last however long we've been talking and try to like synopsize it, if that's a word, but like wrap it up and like put it in like a cute little bow, like I feel like and I want to hear you kind of like wrap it up too, but it sounds like the biggest ways that we can like work with you on the wedding day, help you out, and like, you know, help you get like the best images, make the best, you know, time for the couple, time for ourselves, is to communicate beforehand, on the day of, even after, like communication, like, you know, even being able to exchange photo and video content is like been so amazing for me with the photographers that I've worked with in the past. I mean, especially you, you know, having confidence is a good thing to have on the wedding day. Don't go in there. You can be respectful and put out respect as a confident videographer, and you don't have to be timid to show a photographer that you respect them. And I feel like that might be a place where a lot of the timid nature that you've seen in videographers comes from. There's probably a lot of confident videographers out there that are scared of offending the photographer in charge.
Absolutely.
And just like being respectful of the day and realizing that the moments are so important. And it's just this balance. It's everything that we do. It's a balance. And like I was talking last week with Josh Helton, about, you know, it's a balance of capturing moments and making something look beautiful. And it's the same in this situation. It's a balance of, you know, getting what we need, but also making sure you're getting what you need, because at the end of the day, it's about them. So do you want to speak into that at all? Or do you feel like that was pretty well what we talked about?
I think that was great. I think absolutely. Those are probably the topics that I would want to just like sit on in a conversation like this in general. I think it makes sense to me, just because those are all the places that I've, you know, had to like work out or work through in different scenarios with different videographers. But I mean, I guess going back to probably the thing, if I could just like really dive in and dial in a little bit more, it'd be just the character thing, like show up and be confident, but like with humility, because there is a way to do that. And when you do that, you make space for the other creatives around you to feel empowered. And that's like what I want to do. I want to walk into the room and make sure that the videographers feel like they can be the best version of themselves. And then I can take the best photos that I can as well. And so when you can become a team like that, you are for sure on the same team and you are getting amazing results. And it's totally possible, even in small spaces, even if small spaces with a short amount of time, like you can do it. And so it's like a really cool dynamic you can dial into. So yeah. And like you said, like connecting beforehand is awesome, or even the day of or whatever. I've shot a lot of weddings where there was like the photo team and then the video team, and they felt really separate. But the times where we could kind of come together, I felt like the couple got a way better experience. So I think that's a cool thing to keep in mind too. Just dynamically, the couple and their family will pick up on whatever we bring into the room, kind of, not to sound weird, but like, I mean, I think it's true. They will. And it's also their wedding, and they're going to like enjoy enjoy it, but I think we play a huge part in creating that atmosphere and making it a really good experience for them. So again, yeah, whatever we can do to be excellent, but also create the experience or help guide the experience to make it amazing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Michaela, so for the people that are watching this, that have made it this far, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you're able to learn something from this. I mean, I think it was good just for me as well to be able to like speak. Well, me and you haven't talked this extensively about working together as photographers and videographers. We're just kind of like, hey, we're having fun, whatever. We're out in Montana or Norway, or we're doing our thing. But it's been good, even with our relationship being photographer and videographer, hearing things out. Guys, don't be scared to communicate with photographers. Don't be scared to be confident on the wedding day. But I guess last question for you is for people that want to follow your work. And just to say, before you say how to follow you, her work's stunning. It's beautiful. I mean, she goes to some of the best places in the world. How can people follow you best?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, thank you, by the way. If they want to follow what we're doing, we are at Promise Mountain on Instagram. That's probably one of the best ways. And then promisemountain.com is our website. And we're on Facebook and stuff, but I think Instagram is probably one of the best ways to do that. And absolutely, I really enjoy connecting with videographers, and we love working with Stanton, but he's not always available. So
right. I was going to say that. I was going to say that, like, reach out if you resonate like with this conversation. And,
totally.
Not to cut you off, but yeah.
We love just connecting with other creatives in general. And again, my whole heart is just like, hey, let's empower each other. So I don't view it as a competition thing or anything. I think it's fun to just come together and connect, which is what I think you've done really well with this group. So anyway, yeah, thank you so much for just inviting me to be part of the conversation. It's really cool.
Of course. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So, all right, Michaela, well, we'll talk soon. I'm pretty sure we'll probably talk soon. Got some weddings coming up. All right, see ya.
All right, bye.
Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. Like she said, let's just make sure that we communicate with photographers. Let's make sure that we are confident, and these are two of the biggest things that we can carry into a wedding day. These things might seem very self-explanatory in nature, but hopefully by this point you've realized that by actually applying these things, we can gain the respect of the photographer, show the bride that we work really well with them, and have a much better time on the wedding day. On top of making really good wedding films, it's also part of our job to provide a really good experience for everyone there, and that includes the photographer. It's very possible to work well with photographers and still make incredible wedding films, and I hope that we are able to realize that after watching this episode. Thanks again for watching, guys. We'll have another one out here in a couple weeks. Stay tuned for that. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, go ahead and do that. Hit the like button, turn on the notifications, all that jazz. Go ahead and do it, and I'll be coming out with some more content here in the next couple weeks. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.